All right, ladies and gentlemen, uh, Mr. Elon Musk and President Trump did a speech, and I'm watching that, and Elon is explaining what they have been doing to us with SSI, SS disability, mortgages. I was one of their suckers also. So let's listen to what's going on in this video. All right, I posted the link in my chat and description. Let's get started here. Which some of this is really shocking, and I have a couple questions myself. I know I'm a stupid idiot, and I'm not smart, but I also have some questions here. So let's listen.
Taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at say, we just if you look at say Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list. And even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that no, actually we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, like, I think.
All right, did you hear that? There's people that have been receiving a check that are 150 years old. So what could be going on there? Well, being that I'm an idiot now and I can't do anything, I've been watching on this stuff. Now, if there was somebody 150 years old, it would depend who that person was and how much money they put into Social Security. See, if someone dies in your family and they were receiving benefits, the families are uh, entitled to them benefits. So I understand what Mr. Musk is saying and Mr. Trump, the guy was 150 years old and still getting payments. Who was he and what predicament did he get in? Was the guy a multi quadrillionaire, a billionaire? Who was it? A multi billionaire, right? That paid big bucks into, there's a lot of these people that uh, became rich, very rich, stinky, filthy rich, but yet they went by the laws of the land and the rules. You pay your taxes, right? They were rich, filthy rich. $1 million was nothing to them. It was nothing. And let that be a, a standing point, a rock that some of these guys were stinking rich, but they paid their fair share in taxes. I know it's crazy, but they did. So this guy that was 150 years old, what kind of money did he have? What did he put into Social Security? And if it was a low paying job, then Elon Musk is right. He was used for 150 years. Somebody was drawn off that Social Security. And there's probably millions of people that are no longer alive, dead, low paying jobs, and their name and Social Security number was used. So I agree with him on that. Now let's continue to listen of what really goes on and what we've been put through as people that are on disability or just Social Security and old. There's Social Security ain't bad because you don't have to go through all kinds of doctors and been poked with needles and tests and all kinds of crap, talking to psychologists and all that. People on Social Security SSI have to go through torture. They have a disability, they have to take all these tests, and then they say, well, you got a problem, and then you have to do what they say. Now, a lot of us were on medication for many years, and the medication did more damage. At first, it helped. I'm not going to lie to these people. At first, the medication helped. But after many years of taking the medication, it did more damage than anything. And I still have a disability. My disability will never go away. It gets good on some days, and some days it's very bad. So let's continue and listen to Mr. Trump and Mr. Elon Musk. He's saying that there's a list, right, of don't pay bills. The bill comes in, and you're supposed to look at it, make sure it's a legit bill, make sure it's for what they said it was, and yada, 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 legitly before you pay them, right? But he's saying right now, they're just handing checks out, right? And paying terrorists, literally. I think that's what Elon said. And terrorists and stuff are using it. It's just horrible. Let's continue to listen.
They're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, like, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it, and that they receive it quickly and accurately.
Amen.
Also, another crazy thing. So,
use it.
You know, one of the things is like we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this obviously there needs to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay, well, let's if people can retire, you know, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire.
Wow. Now let's hold on. That's happened before.
There's like 1,000 people that work on this.
That's happened before. And you know how they're doing it? I'm going to explain. Because I've been studying up on this. I'm an idiot, but that's been done before. Retirement has been stopped. Why? Because of malfunction problems or whatever, like Elon's talking. And the proof is people went to go retire, but they changed the retirement date. See? Before, you had to be a certain age, you could retire. And what Elon is saying is, well, the elevator broke. No one can retire that year. So what did they do? Raise the retirement because they couldn't pay out because they couldn't get the paperwork down. The elevator broke. All right, let's continue with more of this speech from the Oval Office with Elon and President Trump.
So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, you know, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think, you know, that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity? Is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles, and so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet. Are people normally this quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk.
I have to what?
Including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The public voted. We have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We won the House. We won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, that, you know, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, our actions, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X. And
All right, let's talk about this. Okay, I can understand what people are saying. Elon's contracts are with the government, right? So is he policing himself, right? I don't know. I like Elon Musk. He's a intelligent person with an open mind, right? He works outside the box. So I agree with some of the stuff he's saying, but then we have to come to the terms of he's made a lot of money through the government. Is he a yes man, right? Uh, I don't know, right? It's a catch 22. The things he's saying are correct, are right. Uh, we all know about Social Security fraud and uh, corruption and all that, and the deals that the government made, right? So these people might be getting a Social Security check because they did something or they knew somebody, and although they're 150 years old and they died, somebody's still getting that money. Now, what we have to check is it a family member? Because then it's perfectly fine if the gentleman was rich and famous and a big uh, quantoon or whatever they call him, big rich man, then yes, his family is entitled to that money. And that money, if depending on how much he paid, might go down ancestor to ancestor, right? It's very possible because that's our laws. That's what is supposed to be protecting us. Although it wasn't our you know it, it's our family member, military family member. They had benefits. They paid into Social Security. They were working men, and some of them were rich. If you got in the right trade, you'd make a lot of money. So yeah, they're entitled to that, right? Just like a wife is entitled to a husband's uh, benefits from the military or Social Security, or if the mother passed away, then the children, if there was any children, they would be entitled to that. So I agree with you know it's really back and forth because I agree with most people. They're entitled to that money, but you have to look at, was the money there for this guy to be getting a Social Security check for 150 years? That's what's very questionable, because you have to show that. You have to show, well, this guy was it was this guy. It was Hughes, right? Multi-quadrillionaire or whatever, right? And his family getting money. It was Nikolai Tesla. These guys. It was Franklin, or the guy that invited. The money, they still get money today. GE, Ford, that family still gets money. Do you know how much money that is, folks? Right? The family of Ford still gets money. And I imagine it's like that with all these big corporations. Even Mr. Trump, his name, right? He passes away, that name goes on to the kids, still a multi-million-dollar thing, right? Quadrillion, whatever it is. So let's continue to listen.
and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the Doge organization. So, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts when it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes, but transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look in that area. If we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two.
Okay, so now they're talking about Elon policing himself. Well, here's what I'm going to say about that. Make it as apparent as you can. But you know what the people are going to think, Mr. Musk. So they will have to police you. Right? That's just part of it. You know it. They might say they're not, but they're going to. And it should only be fair, sir. You're a pretty legit man. I know there's a lot of talk out there about, well, you're worried about this, you're worried about that. You need materials for certain things, and we know that, right? But to be all fair, I agree with what you're saying. But I also agree with all these other people that are saying no one is above the law and you can be transparent. But then if you're going to be like that, sir, all power to you. And be transparent and stay legit, 100%. Stay legit and don't quit. You know that old saying that MC Hammer said, too legit to quit. Well, just be legit. Abide the laws. You don't need all the money in the world. Who cares if you're the richest man or not? Integrities and morals is what you will be remembered for, along with money. But let's continue. Mr. Trump is also right. Contracts that were wrote where people made billions, quadrillions, pushed aside. Right? Every single working man has been slapped in the face at one point or time. Every citizen, every race. We all were slaves, as much as you folks don't want to believe it. Us honkies. We're also slaves. To our own kind. And that's the worst, brother. Now let's continue with the rest of this.
2 words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You got a lot of that. You have a contract that's a 3-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big.
Yeah.
But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months, it's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, they don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that. And even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be corruption. It could be a deals made on both sides, where the guy gets the money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts.
Yeah.
So he has to get a kickback.
Oh, boy. Kickbacks, corruption. Signed a contract for 3 months and got paid for 25 years. Checks going out. What kind of contract? What was it for? Who was it? Was it a military defense? I mean, you have to watch, because they will do anything to get the biggest, baddest weapons. So this might have been hush-hush under the table contracts that were done by handshakes. No documentation. No paper trail. Now, will this piss off people? It might. I mean, fraud, barbaric fraud. Are we paying? Were these payments going out to other countries that were actually terrorists? I don't know. Elon even mentioned that these things were being used by terrorists. Unreal. Do I believe it? Sure. This must be that white privilege that they were talking about. I never seen it. Well, we were just peons. You made 50,000 a year. That was peon. Yeah, that was baby crap, right? 25,000 a year, 50,000, 30,000. I don't know. Let's continue and listen to see what we got going here.
So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings, and he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million, $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants, all illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Yeah.
Mr. Musk, I have asked a question.
Well, if I may sort of just going for the president's comment.
Now they're catching on. Elon said it. We've been saying it for many years, and it's a racket. Everything's a racket. How deep does it go? I don't know yet. I don't even want to know. I don't. I don't have the brain no more for it. I don't have the back for it. I just don't have the heart for it. But we can tell you this much. Flabbergasted. Now, what do we do? I don't know. Who was involved? How many? Well, where's the money going? Are we paying to kill ourselves? Is my question. That's my question. What are we doing? What's happened to it? What did they do to us, Elon? What did they do to us, Mr. Trump? Were we caught in the middle of this madness and used as guinea pigs or used as tools or just cattle? What have they done to us? I know I'll never be the same. I got doctors saying, oh, he's shot. It's over for him. And it is at 50 something years old, you can't go out and start over, and you can't. I just don't. The line of work I did and all the madness and everything, it's paying a toll, right? You were a man if you went to the doctor when you were hurt. You weren't a man, right? So we did things when we really should have been in hospitals. But because of society we live in and the people around us, you sissy, you broke an arm, you ain't at work tomorrow. That's what you went and you went and got it set. You didn't just set it yourself or whatever. Tape it up with duct tape and a stick. Get back to work. I mean, these are the things in real life. But let's continue and listen.
At a high level, okay, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with the support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build, and if we do that, that means you get
look at that
growth,
American kid.
3-4%, 5%. And that means if you get $1 trillion of economic growth, you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion.
Eat it.
Between now and next year, there is no inflation.
That's an American.
There's no inflation in 26.
That's an
And
American.
if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs.
Look at this, Ma.
So everyone's
Don't eat it.
mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop.
Mr.
That's a
Trump,
fantastic
somebody
scenario.
get the finger out of the kids.
For the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices
100%
from one year to the next are the same, and their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped. How great is that for the average American?
We had
That's
no
what we're
idea. We had no idea we were going to find this much.
Somebody get that
And
kid.
it's open. It's not like complicated.
It's not
It's
that
simple stuff.
complicated.
It's
It's a
like
lot of work.
you
Yeah.
can't believe it. A lot of work, a lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere maybe $500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're
It is really
talking
crazy.
about. Normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here, you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good.
Yeah.
And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. The public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on.
This is Most President Trump. Senator,
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOGE cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the
I
plan?
really don't know. I know this. we're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence? Why would that happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda, will you abide by that ruling? Will you
Well,
comply?
I
with that
always
order?
abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum. And it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books. You know, if a person's crooked and they get caught, other people see that, and all of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So, yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that,
I agree. If it's found
fraud is not
corrupt,
even going to Americans.
are
So I think we can all agree
doing
that
bad
if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the
And
fraud rings that are operating in the
American
United States and taking advantage of the federal government,
Bad.
especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings. They're operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that. And this is big numbers. Talking about $100 to $200 billion a year.
country is on
Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you
Agree.
said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes.
We are human.
So,
Only
I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. But if it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Mr. Musk, can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads as you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads, there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that this is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something,
should we
Mr. President, you want us to do this?
trying to save
Then we'll do it.
committee?
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention. Yes, correct. And we are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly. So
Do you see it as a worthy cause, USAID?
I think that there are some worthy things, but overall, if you say what was the bang for the buck, I would say it was not very good. And there was far too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious and do not stand the light of day.
I can just ask a follow-up to the Pentagon contracts. If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is
Yes,
that
which we
a
definitely need
conflict
to
of
do and
interest?
are going to do. at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
The president said the other day that you might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills, or
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Go ahead.
well, as I mentioned earlier, really the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting. Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears and stuff. So it's a bit hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. No, the stuff we're doing with Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an order? A decade ago, maybe?
Paper.
Ever? Really?
Paper.
And we want to,
Trillion go.
just in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. And once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization. If a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, we should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. Like, if it's quite hard to get on that payment, the do not pay list, it means that this is someone that is like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters, that kind of thing. We should not pay them. But currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Many transactions. And by the way, hundreds, thousands of transactions like that. We have a big team. And for the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing, namely make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent. But we're looking at just, when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas. But the USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And
There's only one thing.
much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
Program, can you personally guarantee that?
Which one?
The buyout program, the offer to federal
Who have
workers.
we been paying?
Can you
What have
personally
we
guarantee
been
that the
doing?
workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through
Well, they'll get
September?
their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buy.
And I can't say we, because I'm a citizen. What have they been doing? It's just horrible. And we're going to find out a bunch of stuff, folks. We're going to find out during this whole escalade. It wasn't China. It's not nothing but craziness right here in our own country. And I agree with, I can't say they're wrong. I imagine there's been people making jokes about we just spent 50,000 on a toilet seat. But it comes to find out that's pretty much how it goes, right? Granted, it was a top-notch toilet seat, but it cost 50 grand, and that's what we're going through. Paperwork. Elon said Social Security, all the paperwork they got, and then it's got to go down into a mine shaft, into a vaulted area. Paperwork. He hit it on the button. Do you know how much paperwork we have to go through if you're trying to get on Social Security or disability? All the paperwork that you have to keep because you're afraid that you'll miss, that you won't have the right documentation, and they'll cancel everything, and it took you forever. I couldn't even understand it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to testify that I had to get somebody smarter. I couldn't at that time. I couldn't read right. I couldn't do anything. I could barely read and write now. But I didn't understand it all. And without a lawyer and being poor and yada, 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 I couldn't do it by myself. I had to depend on others because the red tape, it's way worse than just being on Social Security. Being on Social Security disability is literally torture. You are penalized for certain things. If you have too much money, if you save money and put it in your bank, you were only allowed to have so much in the bank and that's it. If not, you were penalized. If you get a job just to try and survive, they took your money. They penalized you. Right? You wouldn't get that much in your check. And here we are trying to survive. And what Mr. Trump don't even realize, I don't know if Mr. Elon Musk realized this yet, but being when you live in a government funded housing development, they surely must know that as soon as you talk about us getting a raise, they take half of it right off the bat. They knew and had the paperwork all wrote up already before I even got anything from Social Security stating I was getting a raise, which wasn't much, but anything is better than nothing from where I'm coming from and the way I was raised. But they already knew, and they already had the paperwork to get their money. Housing developments, every time they say something about a raise, anything, the housing development's going to raise the rent. They're going to get their money. So why can't we get out of poverty? Well, some of us are broke down mentally, physically, depending on what kind of situation or society you were grown up in. Stressful. What kind of neighborhood you lived in. Stressful. That alone will take 50 years off your life. We have a problem in America with mental health. Why? Because America has been put so much pressure to be the number one, to be the best of the best. No failures at work, no nothing, no perfect work every day, 10, 12 hours. Do it the next day. Go out with your buddies, drink. You want to be one of the guys, right? After 20 years of doing that day after day, you wake up one day and your body says, not no more. You got 3 slip discs, half a brain from the chemicals or whatever labor material you're around. Your hands all chapped from, well, if you're a bricklayer, if you're dealing with concrete and mason and mortar, your hands are so chapped and cracked from the lime eating away at it. They're like sandpaper. Then you start breaking down. And that's what America has to realize. It's what government had. We're not machines. And even machines break down. So you know dang well humans are finally going to snap, break down, meltdowns, mental illness. Let's continue to listen to President Trump and Mr. Elon Musk.
Out, and what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have office space. It's occupied by 4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass that for 5 years, you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault. He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it. But many contracts just extend and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it. And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way. You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Head out.
I know a lot of you people know that I'm an idiot. I myself admit I have a disability, but I worked my whole life, and I just recently started collecting disability because of the doctors and the surgeons and all I'm saying. I'm an idiot. And I'll agree with them, I am. But something is telling me that these two gentlemen are correct. Now, whether they're honest men themselves, I don't know, but what they speak is the truth. Now, whether it's thy God Almighty doing it through them, I don't know, but what they're speaking is the truth. And a lot of those people that worked, and we never claimed disability, but we had problems because we were told, you're not a man if you don't go out and earn a living and work through your pain and your madness or whatever. And should they have been put on disability? Yes, some of us at a young age, because we had problems, a massive accident. So yes, I agree. But also, I understand what they're saying. We're paying out stuff that we shouldn't be paying out. And the people that really need it are being pushed aside. Why people that might have made deals or whatever behind the scenes are put forward. And how could someone be 150 years old and still collect a Social Security check? If not in their name, well, someone had to be cashing them checks. Who? I mean, there's a paper trail. If there's a paper trail of it being paid, then it must have been routed to a bank or to someone's house. Who that's 150 years old still getting it? Or was it put out by a legit family member and that guy was loaded and getting it? I got nothing against people that are rich and paid into it legitimately and got buku money coming to them and they kick the bucket. I do believe their families are entitled to that. Yes, sir. I do believe that. Just like a military family is entitled to a military vet's benefits. Yes. And some of us, we did suffer, not by our own hands. Right? Neglect, sure. Misspending, sure. What Mr. Trump's talking about, did they start doing it? Well, a hotel got paid $59 million because they put illegal aliens there and they got double pay, double rent. 59 million, and they were all illegal aliens. I mean, if that's true, if that's all documented and true, and I mean, I'm gonna open the doors here to this apartment. How many people can I get in here? I don't know. Will they pay me for it, or do I just charge these people that? I mean, there's so many opportunities. I want to be an entrepreneur, Mr. Trump, Mr. Elon Musk. Although I hold the lease here on this apartment, can I rent it out for double? Can I rent it out for double to someone else and move and go live in a cardboard box? Or hello, Miss Debbie Fox. I hope you're having a great day. Pay no attention to what I'm saying. I'm just saying, sir, can I be an entrepreneur? Can I move out of this apartment but still keep it in my name, pay the bill, but charge double? Or would I be penalized or be in trouble? I'm just asking, sir. I'm an entrepreneur myself, although I'm an idiot. I mean, I'm already paying close to $400. I mean, if I can double that, right, that's $800 in my pocket. I mean, is that part of being an entrepreneur, sir? I just want to know, because there's already people in these facilities, and you know this as well as I do, that someone else is renting the property, but they're renting it out to someone else that's when they're making more money. I don't know. I'm gonna have to check and talk to somebody and see if I can do that. I mean, I wonder if I can do it. Can I bring someone in and charge them half of the rent here? Right? I don't know. I'd have to see. I've been trying to abide by the laws as much because I don't want to lose what very little crap I got. Took me forever and all kinds of help, all kinds of medication, being poked with needles and x-rays and doctor visits and all kinds of pills. About killed me. I don't know. Do I agree? I agree with what they're saying. We should be keeping our own house, tending our own house, making sure everything's legit. And I mean legit. On the books. No using no secret organization, society to do anything bad. We're here for the people. Right? Maybe it's like God Almighty has finally come down to earth. We can only pray and hope. I don't know how honest they are, but I do agree with what they're saying. You folks have a great night. God bless. All glory goes to God. Forgive us for our sins. May God protect us people that are idiots. For so long we've been used as experiments or mind games just so we go crazy and they can say, we're going to lock you up in a nut hut. You won't get no money or nothing. You're crazy. You're going to be in a mental institution. And it brings back of old stories of listening to some people's grandparents, great-grandparents talk about the great extinction of a race. And that's what we all fare. Our families fare that have children that have disabilities, that they're just going to be taken away and extinguished, locked away somewhere. The world is already frowned upon us and we're looked down on because we're something wrong with us. We just don't look right or act right. Have a great day, people. God bless.